And so with banks, I just have a couple questions for you here. Feel free to just like kind of shout out a couple answers here. But when you have banks, what do you use them for? So what do we use banks for? Money. Yeah. Yeah. So specifically, what do we do with the money? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. We withdraw it, which means we also store it. What else can we use banks for? How do you usually pay for most things? Yeah. Yeah. Bank cards. So we use usually debit cards, right? I know I would, if I don't have tap, I'm like doomed. I'm a helpless child otherwise. So yeah, we use debit cards, we use it for money, we withdraw it, we store it, we can borrow it, and we can save it, right? That's you giving money back to the bank. And then you get interest on it. So those are a couple things we use the banks for. Is there anything else that you can think of that we use banks for? Yeah. No, we just. Oh, sorry. Yeah, to pay bills. So yeah, so pay bills, specifically like electronic services, right? So there's stuff like e-transfer, bill paying, there's checks that you can use with them. And a whole slew of other things. But yeah, so this is what we use banks for, right? Anything to do with money, anything to do with borrowing, financing, direct deposit as well. Like who here in the last like year has been given a check by their like employer at all? Mine always just go, oh, really? Okay. Mine just always goes direct deposit. Okay. But yeah, when you get the check, you know, most of the time, like does anyone else like just use their app to take photos of it, submit it that way? I definitely do. So here's a question for you. What banks do you use? What banks does everyone have? I use Connexus Credit Union. So well, which ones are those then? Does anyone else have another bank? Oh, say that one more time. Oh, how do I spell that? That's I feel like I butchered that. Oh, like that. Okay. Any other ones? So here's a question for you. What banks am I missing right now? Scotiabank, there's one. Which other ones? We got CIBC, RBC, Scotiabank, TD. Yeah, there's one. Does anyone know what the one with the orange cards is? Starts with a T. Tangerine, yeah. Can anyone think of any other banks? Kind of. So that's what we're getting into today. So there's a lot of banks. Specifically, so there are in Canada hundreds of banks, but most of the banks come down to five of them. Technically six if you include the Bank of Canada. So there's BMO, Bank of Montreal, there's Scotiabank, there's CIBC, RBC, and TD. Those are the big five. Whenever you see the words big five, that's what it's referring to, is those five banks, because that's pretty much like those are all the big banks in Canada. And part of that's almost enshrined in law. Now, that said, there are other banks, right? There's like the Tangerine one, there's the credit unions. So there's a lot of different ones. So there's hundreds within the actual province itself. So final question here for you is, how do you decide what bank to choose? Who here has been with the same bank their entire life? I have. So how do we know what banks to choose? Yeah, so we look for one that's close, it's convenient. So no one here's with the same bank they were with when they were born? Really? Okay, that's the first time I've not had that. What a lot of people do is they're just like, well, I've just never bothered to switch banks. It just, this is the one I had when I was a kid or teenager, and that's the one I kept going with. So close, convenient, what else? If you didn't have a bank account right now, how would you go choose one? So promotions, which is basically seeing what the bank has to offer. Oh, okay. So a sign up bonus. I see. I see. So I see what you're saying. So yeah, I'm gonna. But, yeah. Okay, it's interest. Okay, so yeah, so it's close, convenient, promotion, seeing what the bank offers. Any others? So okay, so rewards, and then there's also one other thing as well is does it meet your needs, right? Like I said, I would die without tap. Like I don't carry cash. I use like debit cards and stuff. So I look for when I look for a bank, I look for ones that I can basically have an infinite number of transactions. Different banks have different rewards, which is something we'll be learning a little bit later. But so not all banks are equal here, right? Most of the banks are a little bit different. Who here has multiple bank accounts? Sounds like you do, Stephen. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Same thing for me. There's none in my area. So let me just kind of scroll this down. So what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be spending this next week. Uh-oh. Oh, bear with me. We're going to be spending this next week on, there it is. On banking institutions. And so what we're going to do to kind of start with this is a three-parter one. You're gonna get lots of time for this, so don't worry about it. Just kind of do one part at a time. But you're going to research three different banks. Specifically, you're going to research your bank or one of your banks. You're going to research one of those big five. And if you're with one of those big five, you do a different one. So if you're with CIBC, maybe you'd pick BMO. And then the third one you're going to research is a smaller bank as an option. And you know, if the question that you have is, well, what are the smaller banks? Don't worry, we have that covered on here. So I have a couple different questions here that I want you to try and answer. So it's like, what types of accounts are available? Are there student accounts? What do you need to open an account with them? You know, are there any fees? Why is this a good bank for you specifically? What's the lowest interest rate on their savings accounts? What does the bank offer? And then how is it making sure that your information is kept safe? And so you're looking at those three different banks here. You can search all the small banks with this website here. If you go here, you put in Saskatchewan, you'll find a list of like 48 different banks. So there's tons of different banks that you have. Or if you know of one, like, oh, Tangerine, you could pick that too. But if you're not sure, there's a ton of different options there. So the part two then is you're going to use this information that you found and apply it to just a couple different scenarios. So you're just saying, I think that this person should use this bank and this bank's account, and this is why. And then the third part is you're going to give a small presentation on two of the banks that you've researched. You don't need to like display like, hey, I would pick this bank because you know, this is how it fits my needs. You don't need to tell us about your like banking habits, your financial status. But you're just trying to show a list of, hey, this is what this bank does. This is what they offer. This is why a lot of people do it. So, for example, I pick Connexus Credit Union because, that's the one that I was, that's one I was born with. That's the one that it's the closest ATM that I can get. It has the best hours for me. And I don't need to use their online app a whole lot. So that would be an example there. So you can find this on the LMS. You can find this on the LMS under financial institutions. So that would be, so the documents right here, this is the actual project. I'm probably going to extend this date, but I'm hoping we can do the presentations on the 26th. So on Thursday is when I'm hoping we can do the presentations. I might extend when it's actually due in case you need a little bit more time. But that's when I hope we can do the actual presentations. We'll learn more about banking as we go. So some of the stuff's a little confusing to you. That's okay. We'll be giving you some time every day to do that. We'll also be spending some time doing some other stuff, learning about the banks and what they all offer. But so just as the summary, you can find the documents on the LMS. You'll load up this document specifically. Now, especially because you two are new, what you want to do is you want to download it and then you want to instantly save it, because this is what happens a lot of the time. People will download it, they'll put in a whole bunch of work, and then they think it's going to autosave. It doesn't. So you want to save it first, type something, make sure that close it, and then make sure when you load it up, what you typed works. Okay. So you're just testing to make sure that it saves. There's just a couple times last September where people put a lot of work into something and it didn't save their progress. Any questions at all about that? The research is going to be the main one, because if you have a good job with the research, you're able to then head to part 2 and part 3 and knock those out really quickly. Now, one thing I failed to mention was where you can get this information. You can get it on the bank's website. So if you choose BMO, you go to BMO's website, and then the rest of the information is, for example, what do you need to open an account with them? If they don't say it, you can find that by navigating to this place, canada.ca, and then just go through the menus. I can help you get there if you want as well. Any questions at all? If there's none, I will stop talking and let you guys get to work. I can come check up in a couple of minutes. If you need any help, let me know. Let me just